The planet Zithera was unlike anything Captain Elias Ward had ever seen. From the window of the human shuttle, he gazed down at its surface. Vast crystalline cities stretched across shimmering plains, and towers of translucent metal reached toward a lavender sky. The air was thick with a soft, glowing mist that shimmered even in the faint light of Zithera's twin suns. It was beautiful, yes, but intimidating too. Humans had never set foot on a world like this, and Elias knew that the aliens who ruled here were far beyond anything Earth had ever encountered. He adjusted his uniform nervously. The ceremonial hall of Queen Zira, the ruling monarch of Zithera, awaited him. Unlike other alien rulers, she did not hide behind guards or walls of energy. Her presence alone demanded attention. Every Zitheran he had met so far seemed to move with the precision of a machine, their expressions unreadable, their eyes sharp and calculating. But Queen Zira was different. She carried an air of authority so strong it could bend the will of anyone who dared meet her gaze. Captain Ward, a soft, melodic voice echoed through the shuttle's comlink. It belonged to Ambassador Lyra, a Zitheran liaison assigned to guide humans during this diplomatic mission. Are you prepared? Remember, this is not a negotiation. This is observation. The Queen does not favor weakness. I understand, Elias replied calmly, though his stomach fluttered with tension. He had faced impossible odds in the past, space battles, rogue mercenaries, and hostile alien encounters, but nothing had prepared him for a situation like this. This wasn't about fighting. This was about being tested by a species that considered humans fragile. The shuttle descended through violet clouds and hovered above the central city. Below, thousands of Zitherans moved in perfect synchrony, their silver-blue skin glinting under the suns. The city's architecture was alive in a way Elias had never seen. Towers that shifted shape, streets that seemed to flow like water, and structures that defied gravity. It was beautiful, yes, but overwhelming. Elias's shuttle landed gently on a broad platform in front of a massive palace. Towering doors opened silently, and he stepped into a hall that seemed to stretch endlessly. The walls were made of a shimmering material that reflected the light, creating hundreds of illusions of people moving, though only a few dozen Zitherans were present. At the far end of the hall stood Queen Zira. She was taller than any human, her body sleek and elegant, yet every movement radiated power. Her eyes, a deep silver, scanned Elias as if she were measuring every inch of him. She was surrounded by her council, each member exuding authority and judgment. The air felt thick with expectation. Captain Elias Ward, Zira's voice resonated through the hall, calm yet commanding. We have observed your species from afar. We have studied your battles, your strategies, your technology. And yet, you are here standing before me. Elias bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, it is an honor to meet you. I am here to represent Earth and to foster cooperation between our worlds. The Queen's gaze lingered on him. The room fell silent. Even the council members, experts in evaluating strength and intelligence, seemed unsure how to react. You have been chosen, Zira said suddenly, her tone both declarative and curious. You will participate in the Trial of Ascension. Elias froze. The Trial of Ascension? It is a test reserved for the strongest of Zitherans, the Queen explained. Only those who prove themselves in this trial may ascend to positions of power within our society. And yet, I have selected a human. You will face challenges that will test your mind, body, and spirit. Murmurs ran through the council. Humans had never been invited to such trials. Most Zitherans believed the species was weak, incapable of true combat or advanced thinking. Choosing a human was unthinkable. Elias's mind raced. He knew this was no ordinary test. The Queen did not make selections lightly. I accept, he said after a pause. His voice was steady, though he felt a mix of excitement and unease. I will do my best. Zira's eyes narrowed slightly. Do not mistake this for mercy. Many will not survive. Many more will fail. You have been chosen not because we believe in your kind, but because I am curious. Let us see if your species is as fragile as history claims. Elias nodded, keeping his composure. He had learned long ago that fear was a tool, not a weakness. And curiosity, that strange human curiosity, was often what allowed his people to survive where others failed. The first trial began immediately. Elias was led through a series of corridors, each one more imposing than the last. At first they seemed simple, puzzles, tests of strength and agility. but each challenge was designed to exploit the limitations of a human body. The corridors twisted and turned, shifting as if alive. Walls moved, floors tilted, and the air pressure changed unexpectedly. Zitherans were built for this environment. They were taller, stronger, and faster. Elias could see the council members whispering, expecting him to collapse under the strain. But he did not panic. Where brute strength failed, his mind compensated. He observed patterns, anticipated changes, and adapted in ways the Zitherans had never imagined. When a wall closed in, he used momentum to slide under it. When pressure shifted suddenly, he used leverage to remain stable. He moved like water, flowing around obstacles instead of trying to force his way through them. Hours passed, though time felt distorted in the ever-changing corridors. Elias faced challenges that would have crushed even the strongest Zitherans. Gravity fields that bent his body, psychic illusions that preyed on fear, and monstrous creatures that tested his reflexes. And each time he survived, each time he adapted. The Queen watched silently from her observation chamber. She was intrigued, yet unconvinced. Humans, she reminded herself, were supposed to be fragile. Their history on Earth was short, chaotic, and primitive. Yet here was one human defying every expectation. Finally, Elias reached the heart of the trial. A massive chamber filled with floating platforms, each glowing with alien energy. At the center was a crystal pulsing with power. To succeed, he had to reach it without touching the deadly energy streams that surrounded it. Zitherans had trained for decades to navigate this chamber. Elias had only hours of observation, and yet he stepped forward. He paused, studying the patterns of the energy streams. He did not rush. Instead, he watched, calculated, and then moved with precision. Step by step he advanced, never faltering. When a stream shifted unexpectedly, he adjusted instantly, using momentum and timing in ways no Zitheran had ever considered. At last, he reached the crystal. With a steady hand, he touched it. A wave of energy washed over him, and the chamber fell silent. The Queen leaned forward, eyes widening. He had succeeded, an outcome she had deemed impossible. For the first time, Zira felt something she had never experienced before. Awe. This human had not only survived, but had outperformed expectations in a way that challenged everything she believed about humans. The council murmured in astonishment. "How?" one of them whispered. "It should be impossible." Elias straightened, breathing heavily but unharmed. "I told you, Your Majesty," he said quietly. "I will do my best. That is all anyone can do." The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then in a voice that was almost thoughtful, she said, "Indeed, that may be more than enough." And so the first part of Elias's trial concluded, not with defeat as everyone expected, but with a revelation. Humans were not weak. Humans were not fragile. And this human, Captain Elias Ward, had just begun to show the true power of his kind. Outside the chamber, the twin sons of Zithara cast long, shifting shadows. Elias looked up, sensing that his journey had only begun. The trials ahead would be harder, more dangerous, but he was ready. And for the first time, the Queen understood that the humans she had once dismissed might change the fate of the galaxy in ways she could not yet imagine. The trial of ascension was unlike anything Elias Ward had ever imagined. After the first test, the chambers of Zithara's palace seemed almost alive, shifting constantly. Walls slid silently, floors rose and fell without warning, and energy fields pulsed in patterns that defied logic. Most Zitherans trained for years to anticipate even a fraction of these changes. Elias, however, relied on observation, adaptability, and his human instinct for survival. Queen Zira observed him through a crystalline viewing panel, her eyes narrow but unblinking. She had expected him to falter eventually, but Elias moved with a calm determination that intrigued her. She could sense that he was not just surviving, he was learning. Every challenge he faced was absorbed and transformed into an advantage. "Do you think he will last the next stage?" whispered one council member, their voice a soft hum through the chamber. "He might," Zira replied quietly. "But it is not strength alone that defines his power. Watch closely. This is where humans reveal what they truly are." Elias stepped into the second chamber, known among the Zitherans as the Labyrinth of Minds. The walls shimmered with iridescent light, forming endless corridors that twisted back on themselves. At first glance, it seemed simple. navigate from one end to the other. But the labyrinth was alive with psychic energy, designed to attack the mind. Zitherans who entered often lost hours or even days, trapped in illusions of their own fears. Elias felt the pressure immediately. Shadows seemed to move along the walls. Whispers echoed through the corridors, voices claiming to know his deepest doubts. The air became thick, almost solid, pressing against him as if the chamber itself wanted to crush his resolve. He took a deep breath. Fear was natural, he reminded himself, but it was a tool, not a prison. He closed his eyes for a moment, centering himself, listening to the patterns in the whispers. Slowly, deliberately, he began to move. The illusions attacked relentlessly. He saw his family in danger, imagined failure on countless worlds, even glimpsed himself being judged by the Queen and failing. But each time he focused on reality, the tactile feeling of the floor beneath his feet, the subtle air currents, the rhythm of his own heartbeat. He realized that the labyrinth responded to fear. The more he doubted, the stronger the illusions became. With this insight, he smiled. If fear empowered the labyrinth, then calm would weaken it. He walked confidently, his steps deliberate and steady. Shadows twisted and hissed, but they could not hold him. Every illusion that arose he faced with clarity, refusing to succumb. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. Time in the labyrinth was fluid. Elias finally reached the central chamber where a sphere of pure energy hovered. Touching it would end the trial. As he approached, the whispers crescendoed into a cacophony, trying to overwhelm his mind. He extended his hand and focused, drawing on every lesson Earth had taught him: persistence, creativity, and human resilience. With a steady breath, he touched the sphere. The energy rippled harmlessly through him, and the illusions vanished. The labyrinth was conquered. Queen Zyra leaned forward, her eyes wide. Humans were adaptable, she realized, able to survive not by brute strength or perfect design, but by improvisation and resilience. She had expected instinct. She had expected luck. But what she saw was human ingenuity. The next stage was physical. Elias entered the arena of Titans, a massive chamber with a floor made of shifting stone tiles. From the walls emerged creatures that no human had ever seen, massive, armored, and fast. They were the remnants of Zithara's ancient warriors, biomechanical constructs designed to test raw strength and reflexes. Every Zitharan who trained here learned humility. Most humans would have been crushed instantly. Elias did not flinch. He studied the creatures carefully, noting their patterns. They moved predictably, yet with terrifying speed. His body reacted before his mind fully processed each attack. He dodged, rolled, and used the creature's momentum against them. When one swung a massive claw, Elias grabbed a loose stone, catapulting it into the creature's sensors, causing it to stumble. The Zitharans in the viewing gallery gasped. No human had ever used environmental tactics with such precision. They relied on power, speed, and tradition, but Elias relied on observation, improvisation, and quick thinking. Hours turned into exhaustion, but Elias pressed on. He discovered that the arena responded to creativity. Traditional methods of attack failed, but unconventional thinking, using speed, balance, and the environment, worked perfectly. By the time he reached the center, all the creatures had been disarmed or immobilized without causing lasting harm. Elias had not only survived, he had overcome an entire army through strategy and cleverness. Queen Zyra's interest deepened. This was beyond talent. This was beyond strength. Humans, she realized, had a kind of adaptable intelligence that her species had never experienced. One council member whispered, "He is not just strong, he is extraordinary." The final challenge of this stage was psychological. The mirror of truth, a massive reflective surface, awaited him. The mirror was said to reveal the deepest weaknesses of any who looked upon it. Zitharans entered and saw their failures, their regrets, and their fears magnified to unbearable levels. Few survived more than a few minutes before collapsing mentally. Elias approached cautiously. He knew the danger. The mirror would attempt to break him by showing his own fears and self-doubt. But he remembered something his father had once told him. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward despite it. He stared into the mirror. At first he saw visions of failure. His friends in danger, Earth under threat, himself failing in countless ways. The images were vivid, almost real. Heart racing, he focused on what he could control. His actions, his decisions, his resilience. Slowly the images began to shift. Where fear had dominated, determination appeared. Where despair had threatened, creativity emerged. The mirror could not hold him because humans were not defined by their limitations. They were defined by how they overcame them. When he stepped back, the mirror shimmered and dissolved. The chamber fell silent. Elias had completed the trial of minds. Queen Zira exhaled quietly, a sound almost unheard in her composed presence. For centuries, Zitherans had believed themselves unmatched in intelligence, strategy, and adaptability. And yet, here was a human, one who defied every expectation. The council whispered in awe. "It cannot be," one said. "Humans, they are something else entirely." Elias, exhausted but composed, bowed his head slightly. "I am grateful for the challenge, Your Majesty. Every trial teaches something if one is willing to learn." Zira studied him closely. She could see the exhaustion in his posture, the sweat on his brow, the tension in his shoulders. And yet, beneath it all was something she had never seen in a human. Calm focus, unshakable determination, and adaptability beyond expectation. "You are unlike any human we have studied," Zira said finally, "and unlike any Zitharan who has ever attempted these trials." She paused, then added, almost to herself, "Perhaps we have underestimated your species." "Perhaps I have underestimated you." Elias nodded, sensing the shift in her perception. This was no longer a trial to prove survival. It was a trial to show potential. And humans, he realized, had more potential than most species ever imagined. As he left the arena, he caught a glimpse of the palace's central spire, glowing under the twin suns. Ahead lay the next stages of the trial, challenges that would test leadership, creativity, and the ability to unite disparate forces. He knew they would be even harder, yet he felt a quiet confidence. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and he believed they could do so again. For the first time, Queen Zira allowed herself a small, rare smile. This human, fragile by appearance, ordinary by history, was something extraordinary, and she knew that whatever happened next, the galaxy would never be the same. The sun set over Zithra, painting the crystalline city in shades of gold and violet. Elias stood at the edge of the platform, looking out at the horizon. The trials were far from over, and the challenges ahead would push him to limits he had never known. But for the first time in his life, he understood something crucial. Being human was not a weakness. It was a power, and the Queen, watching silently from above, was beginning to realize that perhaps she had underestimated what humans could truly achieve. The city of Zithra glimmered under its twin suns as Captain Elias Ward stood in the central plaza, catching his breath. He had survived the labyrinth of mines and the arena of titans. Every step had tested his body, mind, and spirit, and every step had revealed the surprising truth of human resilience. Yet Elias knew that the trials were far from over. Queen Zira observed him from her crystalline tower, silent and composed. Her eyes, silver and sharp, traced his movements, her mind analyzing every detail. She had expected humans to struggle, even fail. Yet here was Elias, standing tall, alert, and unharmed. It was beginning to shake the foundation of everything she believed about humanity. In the observation chamber, her council whispered among themselves, their voices low. "He cannot be human," one said, almost in disbelief. "No human should survive such trials." Zira's gaze did not leave the human envoy. "He is human," she replied softly, almost to herself. "And yet, he is extraordinary. Perhaps I have underestimated what your species can endure and accomplish." The council fell silent, sensing the rare gravity in her tone. Zira's doubt was no small thing. In Zitharan society, the Queen rarely questioned her own judgments. And now, facing this human, she felt a mixture of curiosity, admiration, and unease. Elias was escorted to the next trial chamber, known as the Hall of Sentinels. This stage was legendary among the Zitharans, reserved for their most elite warriors. The Sentinels themselves were enormous autonomous constructs designed for battle. They were unyielding, adaptive, and lethal. No living Zitharan had ever defeated them alone. The hall stretched endlessly, the floor made of metallic tiles that hummed with latent energy. From the walls, mechanical giants emerged, their eyes glowing a deep red. Elias froze for a brief moment, studying them. Each sentinel was unique, with weapons, armor, and systems designed to exploit weaknesses in both mind and body. The queen watched him silently. This was the stage she believed would break him. "Observe closely," she murmured. "This human has survived by instinct and ingenuity. But will he survive this?" Elias studied the sentinels carefully. Unlike the previous trials, brute strength would not be enough. These constructs were powerful and relentless. Yet humans had a quality the Zitherans often overlooked: creativity. He moved with deliberate calm, circling the first sentinel. Its movements were precise, almost predictable. When it lunged, Elias ducked and rolled, grabbing a nearby energy conduit. With a calculated strike, he redirected its momentum, causing it to stumble. The sentinel recovered quickly, but Elias had learned something crucial. These machines relied on patterns, and humans could think unpredictably. The other sentinels advanced. Elias leaped, rolled, and climbed over obstacles using the hall itself as a weapon. He redirected energy fields, caused platforms to shift, and created openings where none should exist. Step by step, he disarmed one sentinel after another. From her observation chamber, Zira leaned forward, astonishment in her eyes. No Zethran had ever used strategy and environment manipulation with such precision. This human was not just surviving. He was turning the sentinels' strength against them. Hours passed. The sentinels adapted, changing their attack patterns, learning to counter his movements. Yet Elias adapted faster. His mind worked like a finely tuned machine, but with something no machine could replicate: intuition. He anticipated the sentinels' behavior, predicting not just their attacks but their weaknesses. The queen's doubts grew with every passing moment. She had expected instinct. She had expected improvisation. But what she witnessed now went beyond survival. Elias was displaying strategic genius. One sentinel, larger than the others, advanced directly toward him, its energy blade swinging with deadly precision. Elias barely had time to react. He ducked, rolled, and grabbed a loose metallic beam, using it to vault himself over the creature. Landing behind it, he triggered a hidden control panel, causing the sentinel to misfire. Sparks flew and the machine staggered, disabled without permanent damage. The queen exhaled softly. She had trained warriors to overcome such machines, and even they had struggled. Yet here was a human using ingenuity, observation, and precise action to succeed where many Zitherans failed. The council murmured in awe. "It cannot be," one whispered. "He is beyond human capability," Elias pressed on. He realized that brute force and speed alone would not defeat all the sentinels. Instead, he began to study the hall itself. Each floor tile, energy conduit, and structural column could be manipulated. By the time he reached the largest chamber, he had transformed the battlefield into his advantage. The sentinels, powerful and relentless, became predictable within his system of observation. Finally, he faced the last and largest sentinel. It towered over him, its multiple limbs armed with energy weapons. The chamber seemed to shrink under its presence. Elias felt a surge of pressure, but he did not falter. Instead, he analyzed every motion, every shadow, and every energy pulse. With careful timing, he lured the sentinel into a trap he had created. A series of energy beams redirected to disable its sensors temporarily. Then, using a combination of momentum, leverage, and the hall's shifting environment, he toppled the machine onto a platform, disarming it completely. The hall fell silent. Even the sentinel's automated systems powered down, unable to process what had just occurred. Elias stood, breathing heavily yet unharmed. He had done the impossible. Queen Zira's silver eyes widened. For the first time, she allowed herself a rare expression: awe. This human had done what no Zitharan alone had ever achieved. He had not relied on brute strength. He had not relied on luck. He had relied on creativity, adaptability, and human intuition, the qualities her species had long dismissed. One council member whispered, He has outthought centuries of training." Zira did not respond immediately. She was silent, her mind racing. Could it be that humans were underestimated, not by accident, but by centuries of arrogance? Could it be that their creativity and adaptability were a form of power she had never imagined? Elias, sensing her observation, bowed slightly. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "I do not claim to be stronger than your warriors. I only rely on what I have: adaptability, observation, and determination. That is all a human can offer." The queen's gaze lingered. His humility contrasted sharply with his capability. Zitherans often displayed arrogance, confidence in their own abilities. Elias's calm and measured approach was something she had never witnessed. For a moment, she doubted herself. Had she chosen him to witness the limits of humanity, only to discover that humans had no limits she could see? Her council noticed the subtle change in her demeanor. They whispered among themselves, noting the queen's rare uncertainty. Elias was led to a small chamber for rest, but even there he could sense the scrutiny. Zira's eyes seemed to follow him, not with judgment but with curiosity. She wanted to understand how a human could endure, adapt, and triumph where Zitherans had failed. Hours later, the queen convened her council. "We have observed something unprecedented," she said. "This human, he is extraordinary. His species may possess capabilities beyond what we have understood. We must consider carefully what this means for our society, and for the galaxy." The council murmured in agreement, though their whispers were tinged with awe and disbelief. None could deny what they had seen. Elias had faced impossible odds, navigated lethal constructs, and emerged not only alive but victorious. Meanwhile, Elias prepared for the next stage of the trial. He knew that the challenges ahead would test leadership, ingenuity, and perhaps even his ability to inspire cooperation among different species. The Sentinels had been only the beginning. As he stepped onto the platform leading to the next trial, he glanced back at the palace spire, glowing under the setting suns. He felt a quiet confidence. Humans had survived and adapted countless challenges throughout history, and he intended to continue proving that adaptability, intelligence, and determination were as much a part of humanity's strength as physical power. The queen watched silently from above, her silver eyes thoughtful. She had chosen him to observe a human's limits. Instead, she had glimpsed something more, a potential that could change her perception of the galaxy. For the first time, doubt mingled with awe in her mind. Elias took a deep breath and moved forward. The trials were far from over, and the path ahead promised even greater challenges. But one thing was certain: humans were not to be underestimated. And Queen Zira, watching him, was beginning to understand that she might have underestimated not just a human, but the true power of humanity itself. The air in the trial chambers of Zithra seemed charged, as if it could sense what was coming. Captain Elias Ward stepped onto the next platform, knowing that this stage was unlike any he had faced before. The first trials had tested his mind, his body, and his courage. Now the challenge would test his true potential, his creativity, adaptability, and ability to see what others could not. Queen Zira observed silently from her chamber, her silver eyes sharp with curiosity. The previous trials had already shaken her beliefs. Elias had survived the labyrinth of minds, conquered the arena of titans, and outmatched the sentinel constructs. The humans, she realized, were far more capable than she or her council had ever imagined. But she still wondered, was this just luck? Or was there something deeper, something unique about humans? The chamber before Elias was massive. It appeared simple at first glance. A vast, open arena with platforms floating over a deep chasm, glowing with strange energy. But he knew better. The energy beneath the platforms pulsed rhythmically, and holographic projections flickered along the walls. This trial would not just measure skill, it would measure ingenuity and perception. From the shadows emerged the first challenge, a series of alien constructs, smaller than the Sentinels but far quicker and more unpredictable. Their movements were erratic, designed to confuse and overwhelm. Elias studied them carefully. He noticed patterns, subtle repetitions in their motion, a rhythm hidden beneath their apparent chaos. Most Zitherans would attack with brute force. Elias did not. He waited, observing, calculating, improvising. With each move, he predicted their actions and used their speed against them. One construct lunged, and he sidestepped, using the momentum of its strike to push it into another. Another launched an energy projectile, and he redirected it with a metallic shard, sending it harmlessly into the wall. The constructs were relentless. But so was Elias. His movements were fluid, almost like a dance. Every action seemed chaotic, yet it was deliberate, precise, and effective. He was not fighting with strength alone. He was thinking ahead, adapting faster than the machines could react. Queen Zira's gaze sharpened. She had seen skill and bravery, but never such mastery of improvisation. Humans, she realized, did not simply overcome obstacles. They transformed them into advantages. The next stage was even more complex. The arena began to shift. Platforms rotated, energy fields pulsed unpredictably, and holographic walls appeared, projecting illusions of additional constructs. Elias stopped for a moment and studied the environment. Everything in this chamber was interactive. If he could see the patterns and leverage the environment, he could turn a challenge meant to destroy him into a tool for victory. He began moving across the platforms with careful timing, using the energy fields to propel himself forward, redirecting illusions to confuse the constructs, and creating paths where none seemed to exist. He discovered that the energy beneath the platforms could be manipulated with precise movement. By adjusting his weight and timing, he caused pulses that temporarily disabled some constructs, giving him openings to advance. Hours seemed to pass, though time was distorted in the constantly shifting arena. Elias was sweating, breathing heavily, yet he remained composed. His human intuition guided him, helping him anticipate the next obstacle even before it appeared. Every action built upon the last, creating a chain reaction that worked perfectly with the arena itself. Then came the final challenge. A massive construct, unlike any Elias had faced before, emerged from the center of the chamber. It was a fusion of the Sentinel designs and the smaller constructs, armed with multiple energy weapons and shields that could adapt to attacks. The arena itself seemed to respond to its presence, energy fields intensifying and platforms shifting faster. Most would have panicked. Elias did not. He studied the construct carefully. He saw a pattern in its movements, a subtle flaw in the timing of its shields. He realized that direct confrontation would be futile, but indirect strategies could work. He needed to use the arena, the energy, and the construct's own systems against it. With careful precision, he maneuvered across the platforms, leading the construct into a series of traps he had discovered. He caused energy beams to redirect, disarming parts of its weaponry. He used momentum and leverage to topple it onto a lower platform, then triggered an energy pulse that temporarily disabled its shields. Step by step, Elias dismantled it without causing permanent damage, showing that strength alone was never the answer. Strategy and creativity were superior. Queen Zira could hardly believe her eyes. This human, who had been considered fragile and weak by her species, had just defeated a machine designed to be unbeatable. And he had done it not through force, but through intelligence, adaptability, and human ingenuity. Her mind raced. What other surprises did humans hold? She had always believed in order, precision, and controlled evolution. Yet this one human had broken every expectation. And in doing so, he had revealed a truth she could no longer ignore. Humans were capable of creating solutions that no other species could anticipate. The council whispered among themselves, their voices low and full of awe. "It is remarkable," one said. "How can a human surpass our construct so completely?" Zira remained silent. Her mind was focused entirely on Elias, analyzing the implications. If humans were capable of this level of adaptability, what might they achieve with access to Zitharan technology, knowledge, and resources? The thought was both thrilling and unsettling. Elias paused in the center of the arena, breathing heavily but steady. The constructs were deactivated. The chamber, once a lethal battlefield, now seemed calm. He had not only survived, but mastered the trial in a way that no Zitharan could have anticipated. Slowly he raised his hand toward the observation deck where the Queen watched. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "I am grateful for the challenge. Every trial teaches something. Sometimes the answer is not to fight harder, but to think differently." Zira's eyes softened, a rare human-like expression of awe crossing her face. She nodded slowly, realizing the depth of what she had just witnessed. Humans did not just endure. They adapted, improvised, and innovated, and in that adaptability lay a power that even Zitharans could not match. Elias's calm confidence, his humility, and his ability to turn impossible situations into victories struck a chord deep within her. She had chosen him to observe a human's limits. Instead, she had glimpsed human potential at its peak. The council remained silent, their minds racing with implications. If a single human could accomplish this, what might an entire human species achieve? How could they not reshape the galaxy with creativity and resilience combined? Elias, sensing the observation, took a moment to rest, his eyes scanning the chamber. He knew the trials were far from over, but he also understood something fundamental. True power was not just physical strength or advanced technology. True power was imagination, determination, and the ability to adapt to the unexpected. Queen Zira exhaled softly, her mind heavy with newfound respect. Humans were more than she had ever imagined. She had expected fragility, simplicity, and weakness. Instead, she had witnessed brilliance, adaptability, and strategic genius. For the first time, she considered humans not as an inferior species, but as potential equals, perhaps even superiors in certain ways. The realization unsettled her, but it also ignited a spark of excitement. If humans could achieve this in a trial, what could they accomplish with cooperation, knowledge, and opportunity? Elias stepped toward the edge of the platform, looking out at the glowing expanse of Zithara. The twin suns cast long reflections across the floating city, illuminating the crystalline towers and the shimmering streets below. He felt a quiet pride, but no arrogance. He had done what humans had always done: adapt, overcome, and find solutions when none seemed possible. And the Queen, watching silently, realized that humanity's true power had just been revealed before her eyes. In that moment, she understood that the trials were no longer just tests. They were revelations, not only of Elias Ward's abilities, but of the boundless potential of his species. The stage was set for what came next. Humans had shown ingenuity and strength, resilience and creativity. But the final revelation, the one that would change Zira's perception forever, was yet to come. Elias, exhausted but unbroken, stepped forward, ready for whatever the Queen and her trials would throw at him next. His eyes were steady, his mind focused. Humans had survived impossible odds before, and he intended to continue proving that adaptability and determination were powers unlike any other in the galaxy. And Queen Zira, for the first time, felt true awe, not at machines, not at constructs, but at a single human who had revealed the extraordinary potential of all humanity. The final trial awaited Captain Elias Ward in the heart of Zithara's crystalline palace. He had faced the labyrinth of minds, conquered the arena of titans, and outsmarted the sentinel constructs. He had revealed a power the Queen herself could scarcely believe. But this trial was different. It was not a test of strength, speed, or agility. It was a test of leadership, strategy, and vision. Queen Zira watched silently from her observation chamber. The awe she had felt during the previous stages had deepened into curiosity and cautious respect. Elias had proven that humans were adaptable, creative, and capable of thinking in ways her species could not predict. Now she wanted to see if he could demonstrate the next step, guiding others, uniting disparate forces, and achieving a goal beyond his own survival. The chamber was massive, an open expanse with platforms floating over a glowing chasm. Scattered across it were alien allies, human volunteers, and automated constructs, all of whom needed coordination to complete the trial. A holographic projection of Zithara's energy core appeared at the center, pulsing with instability. The task was clear: stabilize the core without triggering catastrophic failure. Elias stepped forward, scanning the environment. The challenge was immense. Each participant had strengths and weaknesses, and the energy core was highly volatile. Any mistake could destroy the chamber or, worse, injure someone. He had no time to panic. Humans thrived under pressure, and this was the ultimate test of human ingenuity. He took a deep breath. "Everyone," he said, addressing the group, "we need to work together. Watch the energy levels, coordinate your movements, and trust each other. Follow my lead and we'll stabilize this safely." His calm, authoritative tone immediately inspired confidence. The humans responded first, following his directions without hesitation. Surprisingly, the alien allies also listened, intrigued by this human who commanded attention not through fear, but through clarity and reason. Elias began directing the participants strategically. Some adjusted the energy conduits, while others stabilized the floating platforms. Automated constructs were redirected to support human and alien movements. The energy core pulsed violently, testing every decision, but Elias adapted constantly, analyzing each change and improvising solutions faster than anyone could anticipate. Queen Zira leaned forward, her silver eyes narrowing. She had witnessed ingenuity and skill, but now she saw coordination on a scale she had never imagined. Elias was not just surviving. He was orchestrating a complex operation involving multiple species and technologies, something no single Zitharan could accomplish alone. Hours passed, though time seemed warped in the glowing chamber. Every error was corrected, every danger anticipated. Elias encouraged those who faltered, adjusted strategies on the fly, and maintained a level-headed focus that inspired everyone around him. His calm resolve contrasted sharply with the frantic movements of the constructs and the nervous hesitation of some of the alien participants. Slowly, the energy core began to stabilize. Pulses of glowing energy slowed, the floating platform steadied, and the chamber became calm. Elias stepped back, breathing heavily yet composed. He had not only succeeded, but he had transformed chaos into order, danger into coordinated success. Queen Zira's eyes widened. The humans she had long underestimated had not only survived, they had mastered leadership, creativity, and collaboration in a way that challenged everything Zitharans believed. She realized that humans possessed a type of intelligence that was not merely analytical or physical, but dynamic, intuitive, and deeply adaptable. The council murmured among themselves in awe. "It is unprecedented," one whispered. "A human has guided multiple species to success where our warriors would have failed." Zira remained silent, absorbing the full weight of the revelation. Elias had proven that humans could think beyond themselves, unite forces with diverse abilities, and solve problems no other species could handle. This was more than strength. This was vision. This was true power. Elias turned toward the Queen's observation chamber and bowed slightly. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "thank you for the trials. Every challenge taught something about strategy, teamwork, and adaptability. Humans may be small compared to Zitharans, but we survive and thrive by learning quickly, thinking creatively, and working together." Zira's expression softened, a rare smile crossing her face. "Captain Ward," she said, her voice calm but full of respect, "you have surpassed every expectation. You have revealed the true potential of your species. Perhaps humans are not merely survivors. Perhaps you are pioneers of ingenuity in ways my people have never imagined." The council remained silent, fully aware that the Queen's words marked a historic moment. For centuries, Zitharans had believed themselves superior in every measurable way. Now, a human had not only survived impossible trials, but had demonstrated abilities that challenged their entire worldview. Elias nodded respectfully. "It is not superiority, Your Majesty. It is adaptability. Humans have always learned from challenges, from failure, and from opportunity. That is our strength." Zira's eyes softened further. She had chosen him to observe, to see the limits of a human. Instead, she had witnessed a revelation. Humans could teach Zitharans new ways to think, to act, and to solve problems. And she realized that cooperation between their species could reshape the future of the galaxy. "Captain Ward," she said, her tone formal but respectful, "you have earned a place among our council, not as a subordinate but as a partner. Your insight, creativity, and leadership are beyond what we could have predicted. You and your people may yet change the fate of our civilization, and perhaps the galaxy itself." Elias's eyes widened slightly, though he remained composed. "I am honored, Your Majesty, I accept. And I hope this marks the beginning of a partnership, not just between individuals, but between our species." The Queen nodded. Her mind was already imagining what could be accomplished. Humans were not a species to be dismissed. They were adaptable, resilient, and capable of strategic thinking that could surpass even the most elite Zitharans. She saw opportunity in their creativity and hope for a future where both species could grow stronger together. The council members, once skeptical, now bowed in acknowledgement. The human had completed what they believed impossible. They had witnessed the first true demonstration of human ingenuity, adaptability, and leadership on a scale that could influence the entire galaxy. Outside the palace, Zithara's twin suns set over the crystalline city, casting long shadows across the streets below. Elias looked out at the glowing towers and pulsing energy fields, sensing that this moment marked a turning point. Humans had proven themselves not only capable but extraordinary, and the Queen, once skeptical and judgmental, now regarded humanity with awe and respect. Later, in a formal ceremony, Queen Zira addressed the combined Zitharan and human delegation. "Today we have witnessed something remarkable," she said. "A human has faced every challenge, every trial, and has emerged not just surviving but transforming every obstacle into an opportunity. We have underestimated your species for too long. Let this day mark a new era of understanding, respect, and partnership. Elias stood beside her, feeling the weight of history in the words. He bowed slightly, then spoke. We have much to learn from each other, he said. Humans have faced challenges throughout history and survived through creativity, adaptability, and cooperation. If we combine our knowledge with the incredible technology and wisdom of the Zitherans, there is no limit to what we can achieve together. The Queen smiled, a rare warmth in her expression. Indeed, together we may change the galaxy in ways none of us could have imagined. As the ceremony concluded, Elias looked around at the crowd of humans, Zitherans, and other allied species. He realized that this was more than a personal victory. It was the beginning of a new alliance, one built on respect, understanding, and the recognition that humans were not to be underestimated. Queen Zyra approached him privately. Captain Ward, she said quietly, you have shown what humans are truly capable of. You have earned not just respect but trust. I look forward to learning more from you and from your people. Elias nodded. Thank you, Your Majesty. And I look forward to working together. There is much we can achieve if we trust and support each other. The twin suns of Zithra dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the city. For the first time, humans were seen not as fragile outsiders but as beings of potential, ingenuity, and true power. And Queen Zyra, watching Elias, understood that this alliance could change the course of the galaxy forever. In that moment, the trials were complete, but the journey had only begun. Humanity had revealed its strength not through force or domination, but through creativity, resilience, and the ability to inspire cooperation. And the galaxy, vast and full of unknown challenges, would never look at humans the same way again. Captain Elias Ward stood tall, looking toward the horizon, ready for the future. The trials had proven one undeniable truth. Humans were extraordinary. And Queen Zyra, once a skeptic, now watched with awe as humanity's true power unfolded before her eyes.